Yeah. What else, Grok got to say?
All right. Number 9. Oh, you know what? Thank you. Everything Pro Wrestling. You must you must be a soothsayer, sir. Number 9, Ricky Saints. Ricky Saints has signed with NXT. So Ricky Starks debuted in NXT on February 18, 2025, episode under the name Ricky Saints, following the expiration of his AEW contract. Actually, he was released. He was released. He asked for his release, and he was released. So I got to correct Grok again. Starks competed in a match. No, he didn't. Showcasing his charisma and wrestling ability, immediately positioning himself as a significant addition to NXT's roster. Still hasn't wrestled there, Grok. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter reported Starks' move to the WWE could signal a trend of AEW talent transitioning to WWE, given the expiration of multiple contracts. So, Miro and Malachi Black, that actually might be true. That actually might end up being true. His debut has sparked discussions about his potential trajectory, including a possible main roster call-up or a dominant run in NXT. So Ricky Starks is in NXT now. We talked about that last week. What do we think of the name Ricky Saints?
I don't like Ricky Saints. I know he'll become famous with that name. I don't think it has a very good ring to it. Like Ricky Saints, it just, I don't know. Not a fan. Ricky Saint, I think, works a little bit better. Like the pluralization on Saints.
Well, and it has, and then also there was a wrestler, like a legendary Johnny Saint, right?
Johnny Saint, not Johnny
They
Saints.
could have played off. Yeah, they could have played off of, but he's from New Orleans, so he's trying to be Ricky Saints. So.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's even worse now that you say it like that.
Right.
That's like I'd be JD Bears. Like that's or Michael 49er. Like that's
right.
Doesn't work. That being said, I think he's going to be the most over guy in NXT within a month because he's really great on the mic. He is really good at the stuff that they love in WWE. Here's the problem. He's very small. He's going to get to the main roster, and I don't see him moving past a mid-card position.
And that's okay.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. I just don't want to hear how the Tony missed the boat on Ricky Starks things when I don't think he did.
No.
Like, I think Ricky, and he's good. He's a good, like, this thing is, there's not, being in the mid card is not a bad thing, right? It's a good thing. Like, you could have a long, healthy career and make a lot of money being in that mid card. I just don't, I'm hesitant to say Tony dropped the ball on a guy who didn't want to do anything they threw at him, you know, like,
yeah. And he did do an interview, and he said that it wasn't, there wasn't like an issue with a lot of creative. I think the only thing that he turned down was
he didn't want to feud with Big Bill.
Yeah. But he said that there were veterans in that company that were kind of messing with his creative, and people are like signaling that might have been Jericho. I don't know. That's just a rumor. But look,
Jericho's the boogeyman over there. Jericho gets blamed for, and it's possible he did. But I find that anytime there's a problem over there, people immediately point to Chris Jericho, and I don't quite get why.
Yeah. I don't know. I think because when Jericho feuds with people, they're never more over than they were before they got with him. Like they never end up in a better position. I think Ricky Starks is one of those guys.
Orange Cassidy was in a better position after a feud with Jericho. I think that's not accurate. Like I think that's look I think Chris Jericho's feud with guys beneath him quite a bit. And I think like how high up was Action Andretti going to get? How high up? Like look at the guys that he's like. You can tell me MJF wasn't a main eventer after a feud with Chris Jericho. Like I think that's
one could argue he was going to get there anyway.
One could argue he was going to get there anyway, but I mean at the same time, like, but that shows the trend is not accurate. Like Orange Cassidy moved up, MJF moved up. It turns out people with a lot of talent raise up. Like that's just the reality of it. Chris Jericho, if anything, I find him too giving on television, right? Because he wants to work with anybody. Like, I find that people are just willing to. I think a lot of it is with his political beliefs, of which mine are the opposite of his. So I'm not trying to cover for him. I just think that I think
there is something to that, because I think people started to sour on him whenever he started questioning the results of the 2020 election, and that's when people really started. They started to really sour on him. And it's like, well, he's a Republican. I can't like him. And I think that's just not cool. Now, I think one could say, I don't like him now because his segments aren't any good anymore. And he's kind of not great in the ring. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say he's kind of like well past, a guy that should be on TV every week. I'll just say that.
Here's the problem.
I'm not a fan of the learning tree.
I mean, either. Here's the problem though. He's freaking over everywhere he goes.
True. Yeah.
Like people say, "Oh, I'm so over Jericho," and then he walks out there and people go crazy for him still, and everything he does gets over. Granted, there's a smaller audience now, but they're not crickets. They're not sitting on their hands when Chris Jericho's out there.
Right.
So I don't know. I think people are tired of him. I can't argue that. But I also think the idea of making him the AEW's boogeyman for every problem is silly.
Yeah. Well, and to Ricky's credit, he did not point the finger at Jericho.
I thought
people in the chat was
ahead,
Nathan said maybe Edge. Yeah, Edge kind of killed him in a promo one time because Ricky Starks called him bug-eyed, and Edge just squashed him in a promo, killed him dead. But I don't know that it was Edge. So
if you're with that line in Avengers Endgame, if you're gonna go for the head, like
yeah,
you're gonna go for a veteran. You gotta go. Like I thought Ricky handled himself very professionally. He didn't bury Tony Khan. He didn't bury AEW. He said it was personal, but nothing like. I don't know. There is some bad blood there but I think that's any job you leave. Everyone leaves a job like I could have done more, which is good. You should think that.
You know what? And what I don't like, and every fan bases for every company does this, and it drives me up the wall. It's driven me up the wall about TNA fans forever. It's like, well, he's not that good anyway, and he's gonna go over there and suck, right? And that's not the case with Ricky. Like Ricky was very good. I think could Ricky have been pushed more? I think everybody could be pushed more, but it's like when you say that, then you have to say who should be pushed less, and you don't have access to all the numbers that they have access to. There might have been a reason why he was slotted the way he was slotted, because that roster over there is completely stacked. I think NXT is the perfect situation for him because they don't have a lot of stars there, and people are like, why would they even put him on NXT? Why is he being relegated to NXT? First, he's not being relegated to NXT.
They have a major TV deal. They have to
get
people. They have to get people recognized.
Right. And NXT is the third most watched show in the country right now. Right. So he's not being relegated. He upgraded his stock by going to NXT, leaving AEW, being on the 4th and 5th number rated shows in America. He left those two shows to go to the third. He's not been relegated anywhere. In fact, he's going to go over there and hopefully he's going to make that program better. And they could use the help because that's one of the worst goddamn shows I've ever seen in my life. Like I can't. TNA is actively involved in that show, and I have a TNA podcast, and I just refuse to watch it. Fucking Moose was on this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing Moose and Obafemi go at it, but I will be damned if I sit through a 2-hour episode of NXT. I can't do it.
I don't know how anybody watches NXT. It is wrestling that is just not for me. Like I can't, I cannot think of a single thing on the show that I like. So, I'm happy for him though. He wanted to be in WWE. He's made that obvious for years. Which I think is also one reason Tony's not pushing him as hard. Like, if you're actively campaigning to go to the other place, why am I going to push you? Like, it doesn't make sense. Why am I going to invest in you? Like, if anything, I think Tony's hung on to these guys for too long.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, because they turned him into a martyr. And to Ricky's credit, he has never once come out and bashed anybody.
Nope.
He has not. He has been a professional. And he didn't try to get out of his contract in an unprofessional way the way Pentagon and Phoenix did, right?
Andrade.
So yeah, so I think you gotta cheer on Ricky Saints. Now, I'm not a fan of that name either, but you know what? I also wasn't a fan of the name change from Walter to Gunther, and now I honestly sometimes I forget that he was Walter for a while.
I think what helps there is his body changed so much that it almost seems like Walter and Gunther are different people. So I think that in that case it kind of works because he just looks so different now. So. Yeah.
Well, it's just WWE bullshit, and it's like a name change for the sake of a name change. It's like changing happy to glad, and I'm just like, I'm just not with it. So, like, the principle of the matter is what pisses me off. But Ricky Saints is whatever. It's a fine name. I hope the guy becomes a big star and makes millions of dollars for real. I hope so.
Yeah, he's very talented. I think right away he's the most talented guy on that roster. There's not a more talented. There's not a. Honest to God, I don't think there's a better professional wrestler in NXT right now than Ricky Saints.
Bell to bell promo wise, I don't think you're wrong.
Like the total package. Total
package. Bell to bell. I think
there's some good guys in NXT.
Nathan Frazier, and Axiom is really good too.
Yes, former A kid.
I think Wesley's pretty good. But I think as far as the total package, I think he's like the guy that's got the most star potential.
Ricky cuts better.
Actually, Obafemi is going to be a WrestleMania main eventer. Watch out for that name. Him and versus Moose is going to be insane. And Javon Evans, pretty good too. I just want to give a shout out right here to Seth Rich Rogan says Javon Evans. Yeah, I think so. I think so.